Listen, y'all, I made a mistake of trying to take a day off yesterday. I did. I made a mistake, apparently. I've been doing a lot of videos recently. My head's been buried in my computer, my iPhone, and Twitter and YouTube. Figured I could take a day off. The world won't come to an end. I'm not gonna have to worry about the first Muslim congresswoman or the first hijabi Muslim congresswoman getting attacked and berated, not from the right, but the left. I thought I could take a day off without that happening. But clearly, we're not allowed to take days off in politics. I don't know why I'm surprised. My bad, y'all. Won't happen again for a while. My apologies. Because that's exactly what happened yesterday. When I tell you, I can't really put into words how pissed I am about what I saw take place yesterday on Twitter. And what I really can't stand is how some of these so-called allies of ours in the progressive movement have made excuse after excuse after excuse without even seeing the bigger picture, without seeing how their stances are really reflective of, once again, how white supremacy will always, and money, by the way, will always dominate our conversations, no matter how. It's funny, when LeBron James had the N-word sprayed across his house in LA at the peak of his career, after he had just won a championship for the first time in Cleveland, he still experienced racism, still to this day. And it's funny because that really was a reminder, and he said it along with everybody else. It doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter what position you get. Ask Barack Obama. I'm not even a Barack Obama fan, but he experienced some of the most vicious sorts of racism that I had ever heard to this day. It doesn't matter what position you hold, because the majority of the world sees minorities as they believe we are, as we've been portrayed for centuries, which is really sad. It really is. But this is another example of that. So I want to go ahead and dissect this from the beginning, because I think that that's very important to understand why I'm so pissed about what took place yesterday. So the other day, this didn't happen yesterday. This actually happened, I want to say, about 2 weeks ago, where Representative Lee Zeldin actually came at Ilhan Omar literally out of nowhere, saying, "This new voicemail just came into my office, Ilhan Omar. This is just another day in my world as an American Jew in Congress. Would love to know what part of this hate-filled anti-Semitic rant you disagree with. I disagree with all of it. Do you? First of all, what in the actual hell? Did you hear that? You don't come at, so what? Why did you reach out to Ilhan Omar about that voicemail that you got from some probably racist white dude who doesn't like Jewish people? So you go to the Muslim hijabi woman in Congress and say, "Hey, what part of this racist rant do you disagree with?" Which I'm probably pointing you out because you're Muslim and you're most likely to agree with the anti-Semitic comments, which isn't true. But yet, this congressperson, a Republican, comes at Ilhan Omar. Now, once again, she handles it beautifully, saying, "This is heinous and hateful. I too am flooded with bigoted voicemails and calls every day. Maybe we could meet and share notes on how to fight religious discrimination of all kinds." Now, this guy, Lee, his response to that was childish, it was disingenuous, and it was opportunistic, because what he ended up saying is that, "Oh, well, you'll support this bill to basically ban free speech for Israel. Yeah, yay." That's what he was basically trying to get Ilhan Omar to sign on to via Twitter. So this is where all of this really started, right? You see that there's a problem out the gate. There is. Because there should be no reason whatsoever that he came at her in such a way over anti-Semitic comments as if she's the expert in anti-Semitic comics. So that's already xenophobic out the gate, people. We see where this is headed. So this is a Republican. I just want to remind you of that. So I want to go ahead and we can start going into the nitty gritty. I'm gonna pull it up. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna pull it back up. I thought I had it pulled up, but I didn't have it pulled up. We're gonna pull it back up. So then, in an article by Glenn Greenwald, she retweets it. Basically, the article says, GOP leader Kevin McCarthy threatens punishment for Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib over their criticism of Israel, over their criticism of the human rights atrocities in Israel. They are threatening punishment over Congresswoman. This is Republican threatening the punishment. Republican threatening the punishment. Okay. It's stunning how much time. Now, this is Glenn Greenwald. And Ilhan Omar quote tweets it and says, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. Because it's so ironic that, I mean, it was a pretty smooth tweet, because Benjamin Netanyahu is obviously the prime minister of Israel. He gets away with literally any and everything in the international community because the United States protects him. The international community, by and large, despises Bibi Netanyahu. The international community, by and large, believes he's a war criminal. The international community, by and large, believes he should be tried in the International Criminal Court. And a lot of people, even in his home, most of the people in his home country, do not like him. But, you know, just like our politicians here, you know, it's a democracy in Israel. Democracy. In other words, he cheats to get there, just like everybody else. The first time, people believe he legitimately won because he pretended to be center. And then after that, he basically cheated. Bibi's history is a little complex. We can get into that in another day. But I just wanted to talk about how smooth that tweet was, that response, because it's all about the Benjamins, because Bibi Netanyahu, but also it's about the money. It's the money. They get paid to love Israel and hate everybody who disagrees with Israel. And it's also just so happens to be that the Republican Party is about as Islamophobic as it can possibly get. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. Okay? Let's continue. So then, Chelsea Clinton joins in on the conversation because another Jewish woman, I can't remember her name, but she basically said, oh, these comments are anti-Semitic, Jan. And everybody's like, what? Because she commented on the fact that Ilhan Omar commented on Twitter saying, well, why do they treat, Israel with such exclusive preferential treatment? And she said AIPAC, because it's true. Then they go on to ask her, well, are you trying to suggest that AIPAC pays politicians in favor of Israel? This is a real conversation. Yeah, that's actually exactly what they do. That is AIPAC is a lobby. It is a PAC. They pay people to do what they want them to do for them. In Congress, I don't know what's hard to understand about a PAC. Maybe people should do some research on how politics work. That's why we want big money out of politics. Remember? So Chelsea Clinton goes on to try and, I believe her name was Melissa. There we go. Melissa Byrne said that disappointed in Chelsea Clinton and piling on Ilhan Omar instead of reaching out to her. So Melissa Byrne actually came out to defend Ilhan Omar because Chelsea Clinton sided with Batya Ungar Sargon, which says to Ilhan Omar, please learn how to talk about Jews in a non-anti-Semitic way. Sincerely, American Jews. Because Ilhan Omar said AIPAC was influential on American politicians, which is a fact. It is not disputable. You can't lie and say that they don't. They literally bring American politicians to court them before they run for president to test which ones they want to do. And then if you don't go to that AIPAC meeting while you're running for president, you don't get their money. Out of all of the presidential candidates last year who were in the final runnings during their primaries, guess who the only candidate not to go was? Bernie Sanders. Guess who's the only candidate not to get money from AIPAC? Bernie Sanders. Case in point. So let's continue. Chelsea Clinton says, co-signed as an American, we should expect elected officials, regardless of party, there you go. There it goes. Regardless of party, and all public figures to not traffic in anti-Semitism. Oh, when it gets bipartisan, you know it's about to get good. When it gets bipartisan, you know it's about to get good. So then Ilhan Omar goes on to say, well, hi, Chelsea. I would be happy to talk. We must call out smears from the GOP and their allies. which is true because that's what's happening. They threatened to punish her, and she didn't go after the GOP for threatening to punish her over factual statements about the human rights violations by the Israeli government. But yeah, you're going to jump in over a nonsense about AIPAC. Why? Because AIPAC pays bills, period. And Ilhan Omar goes on to say, and I believe we can do that without criticizing people for their faith, which is true, which is why many American Jews do not like Israel. I lived in Brooklyn I literally next door to where all the Hasidic Jews live. And oh my gosh, the amount of critique about Israel in that neighborhood. They hang signs up, put it on their buses, in the stores. Like, they don't like the way Israel treats Palestinians. They don't. But let's continue. She says, I look forward to building an inclusive movement for justice with you. After that, the Democrats start to pile on. The Democrats they didn't remember this. Kamala Harris, when you had a legitimate critique about Kamala Harris when she first announced, which basically 98% of the critiques about Kamala were legitimate, she was a sexist. Or you were a sexist, excuse me. She wasn't. She had some pretty racist practices, though, considering she broke the record for putting black men in jail. Okay, so the neoliberals came to Kamala Harris's rescue for legitimate critiques about her and lobbed every asinine label they could at you to get you to shut up because they didn't want you ruining her candidacy. Ilhan Omar is in Congress right now. Ilhan Omar is the first hijabi Muslim woman in Congress right now. Ilhan Omar is from Somalia. She came from a refugee camp 23 years ago. Ilhan Omar did nothing wrong but critique big money in politics. Where they didn't defend her. They didn't come to her defense at all. They did the opposite. They jumped on top of it. Now, why do you believe? Honestly, I really want you to think about this. In Israel, who do they consider to be their biggest enemies? This is the same country that believes that, if they say that, I can't remember how to translate it, like, directly. I can't remember how to say it in Hebrew. I used to know how to say it, but I can't remember how to say it anymore. But basically the saying goes, if the rest of the Arab world, lays its weapons down, there will be peace. But if Israel lays its weapons down, there will be no more Israel. That's basically the motto they live by, which is a lie because Saudi Arabia loves them some Israel. And the UAE mostly loves them some Israel because they all have the same international interests as far as oil, money, petrodollar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Both of those, UAE, Israel, they are aligned with American interests, which is why we pay them. But they consider the Palestinians and the Muslim world because it's propaganda. They propagandize Muslims to make them believe that they are the enemies of Israel and that all Muslims hate Jewish people. That's how they propagandize. Okay, because Israel is one of the worst, by the way, as far as the Western world is concerned, or those who align themselves with Western culture and Western democracies. Israel is actually one of the worst as far as the Free Press Index is concerned. And that's look at who's in charge, right? Right? Okay, so with her being attacked like this, you would expect to see some defense from the Democrats. But they joined forces with the Republicans to smear this woman as her attacks being anti-Semitic for merely critiquing money in politics. But why would we think that money in politics or money from Israel paying politicians would somehow make them excluded to being held accountable for national human rights atrocities or international human rights atrocities? I don't know. Maybe because Benjamin Netanyahu stood idly by while 50 people were assassinated. By snipers. Oh, excuse me. My mistake. He didn't stand idly by. He defended it. He defended innocent kids, Muslims. A young woman who was a medic died. A medic. And you think that money, that hush money that politicians get to shut up about all this stuff has anything to do with that? So they want to convince you that they're worried that Israel somehow is uniquely a victim. They want to convince you that they're attacking Ilhan Omar for her quote unquote anti-Semitic comments, quote unquote, when it's not about that. Israel is not the victim, and Ilhan Omar's comments were not anti-Semitic. However, Israel is ran by psychopaths. Israel is in fact an apartheid state, and they are in fact piling on to Ilhan Omar because she is a Muslim woman of color, no less. And if you think I'm lying, Glenn Greenwald retweeted a Vox article discussing how the Democratic Party tried to keep Keith Ellison from becoming its leader, which they eventually successfully did. They said that he was not suitable. The billionaire, the largest billionaire donor to the Democratic Party, said that he was not suitable to be the leader of the Democratic Party. And guess what the reason was? Because he is anti-Israel. He's anti-Semitic because he's anti-Israel. That's what they said. Guess who the first Muslim person in Congress was? Keith Ellison. Once again, perpetrating the stereotype that all Muslims hate all Jewish people and therefore all Jewish people have a right to denigrate and dehumanize Muslims. But I ask you this. Do you think that Ilhan Omar would be treated the same way if a white man had made similar comments? No. Because Bernie Sanders actually did, but for a while he was kind of in the middle of the fence as far as Israel is concerned. But whenever Bernie Sanders stepped up and called out Netanyahu and called out the Israeli government, right around the time that assassination of those 50 innocent people happened, they didn't say a damn thing, because you're not going to come at an American Jewish man the same way you come at a black hijabi Muslim woman. And let's be honest. I wish we could say, well, maybe they legitimately care about Jewish people, because they always say, right, if there's not a homeland for Jewish people, if Israel doesn't exist, then Jews aren't safe anywhere. Oh, and we have to give them reparations. And sorry, I'll be damned. I mean, and this is you can take it how you want to. I really could care less. Call me what you want, but I'm a black man in America. What do they call? American descendant of slaves. I'm a black man in America. And I have to sit back. And this is why black people are leaving the Democratic Party in droves, and they would rather be independent. Some would even go Republican. Now, that's stupid. Don't go Republican if you're black. They don't like you either. But this is why. This shit. Because we have to sit back and look at you defend giving billions and billions of billions, not once, but every single year to Israel. Why? Oh, well, look at how they were treated in the 1940s by a European foreign country, Germany. And you know, they were suffering anti-Semitism. Oh, God, guess who was also segregated and suffering from racism at the exact same time that Jewish people were going through the Holocaust? Black people. Oh, my God. Can you believe it? Yeah, around the same times. Mind you, I already did the video covering what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Later on, what happened in Wilmington, the Wilmington massacre. There was also something that happened in Florida. I mean, the Chicago riot. This is all happening within a 30-year period. Black people were being murdered for having businesses. We were being murdered for being politicians. But you as an American give reparations to Israelis and Jewish people. I don't want to go through all. I mean, look, if you work for a specific Israeli company and you come to the United States, you get diplomatic immunity, you get college education for free, you get a social security card, you get financial aid. But we can't get reparations because it's too divisive of an issue. Let me explain to you something. They say, well, what happened to the Jewish people? Which, by the way, if I'm not saying they don't deserve reparations, I'm not saying that Palestine should have been the one to suffer for the reparations. That should have been a both, first of all, Palestine should have been a sovereign state. At the time, it was not, which is why they didn't get negotiative powers in that deal. They were still being ruled by Great Britain, if I recall. But it should have been discussed by both leaders, and you wouldn't have the problems you have right now. First of all. Second of all, if anyone should be paying the Jewish people reparations, because I do believe that there was some long-lasting damage to the family tree of Jewish people because of what happened during the Holocaust. But it probably should be Europe, because Europe allowed that to take place for so long and denied that it was even happening. America did too, but it didn't happen on America's watch. It happened on Europe's watch. Specifically, Germany should probably be paying most of all the money. If not, you know what I'm saying? Like, these are the facts. But America would rather take care of the Jewish people that suffered during during World War II and the Holocaust, but trying to give reparations for Black people in their own country is a divisive issue. That's a divisive issue? Okay. Oh, well, slavery was a long time ago. Okay, cool. Slavery ended a long time ago. What about Jim Crow? Well, Jim Crow ended a long time ago. No, it didn't. But literally, it was not that long ago. But hey, Jim Crow was still around, by the way, after the Holocaust. But let's continue, right? Well, what about redlining? Which is still in play today, but really didn't technically officially end until like the late 80s. For those of you who don't know what redlining is, just as a short synopsis, we couldn't get loans in our own neighborhood. We couldn't get housing loans in our own neighborhood. We couldn't get business loans in our own neighborhood. We couldn't refinance our houses. This was until literally it affected us permanently. We're still being affected by this today because now we're being gentrified out of when we finally were able to start building our businesses up, now we're being gentrified out of our areas. But we can't get, like, that is a direct financial reparations are divisive. Reparations to Israel, the country with the nuclear weapon, the country that is literally an active apartheid state. I know what apartheid, listen, I want you to review something with me. I just want to give a reminder to the other times that both parties, in the way that we're seeing right now, were at a consensus. The Iraq War, the war on drugs, Syria, Venezuela, Vietnam, Libya, Israel, and not giving reparations to the Black people who live right here in this country. Iraq War, we didn't find WMDs. War on drugs, turned out that was a war on Black people. Syria, we destroyed their country. We were wrong. There were never any evidence of chemical attacks. This is per Mad Dog Mattis. Per Jim Mattis's words, not mine. Venezuela. Really? Do we have to go into Okay. Vietnam. Not only did we get our asses handed to us, but we should have never been there to begin with. Right? It turned out to be a little profit motive. Libya. Remember what did Hillary Clinton say? We came, we saw, he died. I joked about it. Gaddafi was supposedly the worst leader in the world. Turned out Gaddafi's presence was preventing a slave trade from taking place. Yeah, there's slavery, active slave trade happening right now in Libya. Yeah, they had a consensus on that. And Israel. I already gave you all details about Israel. Remember how they attacked us viciously if you would disagree with them about any of these issues? Remember how they were wrong on all of these issues? But do you remember how much money they made on all of these issues? Think about that. Think about that. The truth of the matter is, Israel is not the victim. These politicians don't care about Israel because they believe that they're victims. The truth of the matter is, these American politicians will pretend to care about the Jewish people as a victim. We have to give them reparations. But you believe that it's because it's a human rights issue? No. Because last I checked, they don't like to take care of the people they owe reparations to here at home. When that Zeldin, Representative Zeldin, the Republican, are you going to stand with me? And which part of these anti-Semitic comments do you disagree with? What? People asking Ilhan Omar, are you going to apologize? Nancy Pelosi demanding an apology? I'll be damned. I'm going to tell, if I was her, I would have told them the same thing they tell us every time we ask for reparations. Get over it. Stop race baiting. She's telling the truth. Money in politics is a problem. But what I want to know is, why don't we see this type of passion, this type of for the Islamophobia that is often displayed and used to justify endless wars for oil. The Islamophobia that is often displayed to justify wars in Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, to justify the apathy that we have for going through this country, destroying them and being wrong. When are you all going to apologize for what you did to her country? That's why she's here. That's why Ilhan Omar is here. She had to go to a refugee camp in Kenya because her country was destroyed by America. Our CIA, which was and is still involved in Somalia. That's my point. The selective outrage is telling. It tells the whole story. It tells the story of how Islamophobia is absolutely real and why they treat the Palestinians the way they do in Israel. Because they don't care about them. They want to dehumanize them. They want to denigrate them. They want you to believe that they are the evil ones, that they are the ones attacking us. That's why we have the nuclear weapon. That's why we have the guns. That's why we can shut off the water in their settlements whenever we want to. That's why we're allowed to have a sovereign government, but they are not even allowed to have a seat at the table in the United Nations. This is disgusting. This is what apartheid looks like. And what can I say? America's had a history of defending the apartheid over people of color. We fought against Nelson Mandela. In case you forgot. We fought against Fidel Castro. Now, Fidel Castro was able to defeat the America-backed government in Cuba, but it took a while. It took about 40 years before you could even get to the point where Fidel Castro could be successful in that regard. But that government before was an apartheid government. That's why Fidel Castro could get the black people of Cuba to unite and get behind him. And that's why right now Cuba is 70% black. People don't know that. But that was an apartheid state. South Africa, Cuba, and now Israel, which actually is Palestine, because Israel, according to the Torah, is in Palestina. But you know, politicians don't like to be bothered with things like facts. So do your research. See the patterns, see the connections, and realize this is about money. This is about the denigration of marginalized people once again. This is about white supremacy. You call a spade a spade. You don't like it, I don't care. It's the truth. Israel is not our friend. They are an interest that we preserve to make sure that we continue to have a military power and an intelligence power in the Middle East to preserve our oil interests, period. Ilhan Omar did nothing wrong. Thanks for watching that segment of Mi Casa es Su Casa. You can donate to our Patreon and keep helping the network grow by clicking on the link in the description below. And also, make sure you join us at JustNForm.com. And finally, make sure you subscribe to us on Roku and be part of the very first independent news network on Roku TV. But more than anything else, always remember, find your balance. Peace.